The rain had been falling since dawn. Dark clouds covered the city as Ethan Carter quietly carried the last cardboard box from the house he had once called home. Inside the box were only a few shirts, family photographs, his father's old wristwatch, and a small wooden toy airplane his daughter had made in school. It wasn't much. But every item carried a memory. He carefully placed the box inside the trunk of his aging silver sedan before taking one final look at the front porch. 12 years earlier, he and Melissa had painted that porch together. They had laughed when blue paint accidentally splashed across his face. She had kissed him anyway. Back then, they believed love could overcome anything. Life had slowly tested that belief. After years of financial struggles, failed business ventures, and endless sacrifices, the laughter became less frequent. Arguments replaced conversations. Stress replaced patience. Now their house felt unfamiliar. The front door opened. Melissa stepped outside holding a folder. Her expression wasn't angry. It was tired. "I've already spoken with the attorney." Ethan nodded quietly. "I figured." She looked toward the old sedan. "I can't keep living like this. We're barely getting by. Every month feels harder than the last. I need stability." Ethan listened without interrupting. He had always believed that if someone deserved to speak honestly, they should be heard completely. "I know you tried," she continued. "I really do. But trying doesn't pay the bills." She hesitated. "I don't want Sophie growing up like this." Ethan looked toward the upstairs bedroom window where a small curtain moved slightly. Their 8-year-old daughter was watching. He forced a gentle smile. Sophie's happiness matters more than anything. Melissa crossed her arms. "You still don't understand." "No. I understand perfectly." He reached into his pocket and removed his wedding ring. After looking at it for a long moment, he carefully placed it beside the folder in Melissa's hands. "I hope you find what you're looking for." There was no shouting. No accusations. Only quiet disappointment shared between two people whose dreams had slowly drifted apart. As Ethan turned toward his car, a bedroom window opened. "Dad." He immediately looked up. Sophie leaned outside clutching her stuffed rabbit. "You forgot this." She held up the tiny wooden airplane she had made for him years earlier. Ethan smiled. "Can you throw it carefully?" She tossed it. He caught it with one hand. "Nice throw." She laughed through tears. "When will I see you?" "Tomorrow after school." "You promise?" "I never break promises." She nodded. "I love you. I love you more." As he drove away, he didn't notice Melissa quietly watching from the porch. She expected anger. Instead, he left with dignity. What Melissa never knew was that Ethan had hidden the truth from almost everyone. 5 years earlier, he accepted an unusual offer from his closest friend and former military colleague, David Lawson. David had launched a private investment firm that quietly purchased failing manufacturing businesses. Instead of taking a salary, Ethan chose ownership stakes in each company he helped rescue. The arrangement looked foolish to outsiders. For years, his bank account remained modest because almost every dollar stayed invested. Friends assumed he was barely surviving. Even Melissa believed his consulting work paid very little. Ethan never corrected anyone. The contracts required strict confidentiality. He couldn't reveal the companies involved. He couldn't discuss future acquisitions. He couldn't even explain why he sometimes disappeared for several days. Whenever Melissa asked where he had been, he answered honestly. Working. But honesty without explanation often sounds like secrecy. Over time, misunderstandings grew. The distance between them widened. Eventually, Melissa stopped believing in his vision. 3 months after leaving their house, Ethan rented a small apartment close to Sophie's school. It had only 2 bedrooms. The furniture came from thrift stores. The dining table had scratches. The refrigerator hummed loudly at night. Yet Sophie loved visiting. Together they cooked spaghetti every Wednesday. Friday evenings became movie nights. Saturday mornings meant pancakes shaped like animals. Life wasn't luxurious. It was peaceful. One afternoon, Sophie noticed something unusual while coloring. "Dad. Why do so many people call you Mr. Carter?" "What do you mean?" "At the grocery store. The man in the suit shook your hand. And yesterday. Those people at the restaurant stood up when you came in." Ethan smiled. "They were old co-workers. Were you their boss?" "Sometimes." She thought carefully. "So. Are you rich?" Ethan laughed softly. "What makes someone rich?" She answered without hesitation. "Having enough to help other people." Ethan gently hugged her. "I hope so." Meanwhile, David Lawson repeatedly encouraged Ethan to reveal the truth. "The companies are thriving. Your shares are now worth hundreds of millions. Why keep pretending?" Ethan always gave the same answer. "If someone values me only after learning my bank balance. They never valued me in the first place." Months passed. One Monday morning, David called again. "This time you don't have a choice. The board unanimously voted. They want you to become chairman." Ethan sighed. "I was afraid you'd say that. You'll need security. Public appearances. The works." "I know." David laughed. "And yes. The security team insists on traveling in 10 black SUVs. Ethan looked out the apartment window where Sophie was waiting with her backpack. She waved excitedly. He smiled. His quiet life was about to change forever. He had no idea that before the week ended, those 10 black SUVs would stop outside the very house where Melissa once believed he had nothing, and what happened next would leave everyone on the street speechless. Monday morning began like any other. Ethan packed Sophie's lunch. She insisted on cutting her sandwich into heart shapes. "Dad. They taste better this way." Ethan smiled. "I don't think science agrees." "It doesn't have to." After walking her to school, Ethan drove to the headquarters of Lawson Capital. For the first time since joining the investment firm years earlier, he entered through the front entrance instead of the private side door. The lobby was already filled with executives from around the world. As soon as Ethan stepped inside, every conversation stopped. David Lawson walked toward him with a wide smile. There he is. The two old friends shook hands. "You ready?" Ethan laughed. "I've survived Navy deployments. I'll survive a board meeting." The directors voted unanimously. Ethan Carter officially became chairman of Lawson Capital, the investment company that had quietly rebuilt dozens of struggling businesses across the country. News spread rapidly. Financial reporters gathered outside the building. Business channels announced the appointment throughout the afternoon. The security team insisted on new travel procedures. "Company policy, sir." "I know. I still don't like it." The lead security officer smiled. "You don't have to like it. You just have to let us do our job." By late afternoon, 10 identical black SUVs waited outside headquarters. Employees stopped to watch. Even Ethan laughed. "This seems excessive." David grinned. "So did I. You'll get used to it." "I hope not." That evening was Sophie's school art exhibition. Ethan refused to miss it. "No meetings after 5. Not today." One of the executives protested. "The international investors can wait. My daughter cannot." The convoy headed toward the elementary school. Traffic slowed as the line of black SUVs entered the quiet neighborhood. Parents stared in surprise. Children pointed excitedly. Sophie's teacher looked confused. When Ethan stepped out of the first vehicle carrying nothing more than a bouquet of flowers, Sophie ran across the playground. "Daddy!" He lifted her into the air. "I told you I'd be here. I knew you would." She looked at the long line of vehicles. "Are all these people with you?" They insisted. She whispered. They are kind of dramatic. Ethan laughed. I agree. Across the street, Melissa had also come to see Sophie's artwork. She froze. 1, 2, 5. 10 identical black SUVs stood outside the school. Security officers respectfully greeted Ethan. Business executives waited nearby. She watched in disbelief as reporters approached him for comments. What is happening? Another parent quietly answered. Didn't you hear? That's Ethan Carter, the new chairman of Lawson Capital. They say he owns parts of dozens of companies. Melissa felt the color leave her face. It can't be. She remembered every conversation. Every complaint. Every time she had called him unsuccessful. Everything suddenly made sense. The unexplained business trips. The confidential phone calls. The modest lifestyle he had chosen. Not because he was poor. Because he never believed money defined a person. After the exhibition, Melissa slowly approached him. Ethan. He turned politely. Hello, Melissa. She struggled to find words. I didn't know. He nodded gently. I know. Why didn't you tell me? He thought for a moment before answering. Because I wanted to be loved for who I was. Not for what I owned. Tears filled her eyes. I made a terrible mistake. Ethan's voice remained calm. We both made mistakes. But blaming each other won't change the past. Sophie looked between her parents. Dad. Can we still all watch my dance recital next month? Without hesitation, Ethan smiled. Of course. Melissa quietly nodded. I'll be there too. In the months that followed, Ethan never spoke badly about Melissa. Not to friends. Not to reporters. And never to Sophie. Whenever his daughter asked difficult questions, he always answered the same way. Your mom loves you very much. Sometimes adults make decisions they later wish they had handled differently. That was enough. Eventually, Melissa rebuilt her own career. She and Ethan learned to co-parent with kindness and respect. They never reunited as a couple. Some stories aren't about getting back together. They are about growing into better people. Years later, Lawson Capital established a scholarship fund for children of single parents. At the opening ceremony, Ethan stood beside Sophie, now a confident teenager. A journalist asked him, Is it true your former wife thought you were poor before discovering your success? The crowd became quiet. Everyone expected a dramatic answer. Ethan smiled gently. I've been poor. I've been wealthy. I've learned that neither one tells you the value of a person. The reporter asked. So what does? Ethan looked toward Sophie. The promises you keep. The people you help. And whether your character changes when your circumstances do. After the ceremony, Sophie slipped her hand into her father's. Dad. Yes. Would our life have been happier if we'd always been rich? Ethan smiled. I think we were. She looked confused. We didn't have much money. No. But we always had enough love. She smiled. I like that kind of rich better. So do I. People remembered the story because 10 black SUVs arrived for the man everyone believed had nothing. But those who knew the whole story understood that the convoy wasn't the real surprise. The real surprise was that, even after gaining extraordinary wealth and success, Ethan remained the same humble father who never missed a school event, never broke a promise to his daughter, and never allowed money to become more important than character. In the end, it wasn't the black SUVs that proved his worth. It was the quiet integrity he had carried long before they ever arrived.